Dividing fractions is actually a really quite fun thing to do, and I'm going to show you why. Imagine you had 8 divided by 4. That equals 2. Now we have 8 divided by 2. That equals 4. What about 8 divided by 1? Anything divided by 1 is anything, what it started with. 10 divided by 1 is 10, 20 divided by 1 is 20. So 8 divided by 1 is 8. Now if I asked 8 divided by a half. Now if you notice a pattern, we've had 8 divided by 4, 2, 1, and the answer's been 2, 4, 8. Each time you half what you divide, you times by 2 what your answer is. So what would you guess 8 divided by a half is? Well, it's actually 16. I'll do another example. 8 divided by a quarter. That is actually 32. And I'll try and explain why. 16 is 8 times 2. 32 is 8 times 4. Now, 8 times 2 is the same as 8, let me extend this a bit, 8 times 2 over 1. Because as we've seen, anything over 1 is just the anything you began with. So 2 over 1 is the same as 2. So 8 times 2 is the same as 8 times 2 over 1. 8 times 4 is the same as 8 times 4 over 1. So the secret is, if you divide by a fraction, if you divide in a sense by a divide, you get a multiply. Because a fraction is a divide. A fraction, 4 over 1, is simply 4 divided by 1. So if you divide by a divide, you get a multiply. So if you divide by half, what you can actually see here, a divide by half becomes a times by 2 over 1. That equals a times by 2 over 1. In the same way, divide by a quarter is the same as times by 4 over 1. And you may have spotted a pattern. Dividing by a fraction is the same as multiplying by the reverse of that fraction, by what's called the reciprocal of that fraction, which is just the upside down of that fraction. So I'll give an example. If we have 1 over, let's say, 1 over 3, and that is going to be divided by, so we've got divide by, what should we say, 1 over 7. 1 over 7. Now, what did we find out? Dividing by a fraction is the same as multiplying by the upside down of that fraction. So if we're dividing by 1 over 7, that is the same as multiplying by the upside down of that fraction, which is 7 over 1. So, and we saw in the last video that 1 over 3, when you multiply by a fraction, you can simply multiply the numerator and multiply the denominator. So this just equals 1 times 7 over 3 times 1, which equals 7 over 3. One more example. If we had 1 over 2, a half, and then divided by let's say this time 2 over 3. Remember, dividing by a fraction is the same as multiplying by the upside down of that fraction. So it's the same as multiplying by 3 over 2. And to multiply by a fraction, you multiply the top line and multiply the bottom line. So multiplying by 3 over 2 is 1 times 3, and the bottom line would be 2 times 2. So 1/2 divided by 2/3 actually equals 3 over 4. And that's how you divide fractions.